Do we have any changes or additions to the agenda?
Frank, one thing we were going to talk about was the master plan. I don't
Okay.
see that. That's should be
Oh,
very
assigning
quick.
a member to the
That
master
should be
plan, yeah.
quick. Other
Okay.
than that, I think we're all set. So I'll
Right.
make a motion to accept the agenda with that one add-on.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And just, anybody that's here for number 2 Dickens Row, that's going to be continued to the 17th. So, okay, we have some folks here from, what is the organization called exactly?
South
South
Shore
Shore
Quest.
Quest. So why don't you come up? And we certainly want to hear about this, but we do have to limit. Sure. Thank you. So why don't you introduce yourselves?
Okay, yes, I'm Eleanor Kellum of South Shore Quests. This is
Katie Holden.
right, and thank you, Jen, for inviting us today. South Shore Quests has been an establishment since 1997. Originally, a Hingham doctor organized the committee, and since that time, we've been publishing a booklet of walks on property, public properties on the South Shore. They are clue-based walks, which involve following a narrative and pulling letters off of extant signs, putting them into a clue phrase, and looking for a box similar to this, which is hidden but not buried. So the concept is to get families with young children, older residents to have their out-of-town guests accompany them on these walks. It gets them out on public lands and exploring nature, gets them off the couch, and it's a kind of a low-budget staycation because our booklet costs all of $5, and in it are between 15 to 20 walks. They are all over the South Shore, and of late, we found that there's a sort of a newfound interest. I should explain what's in the box. The box,
This is the treasure box that
This
the
is the
kids
treasure
sign
box.
at the end.
there's a guest book. So you'd sign into a guest book. There's a stamp pad and a pen and a rubber stamp. And sometimes there's questions for the curious, answers to questions about the area that you're exploring. And so you sign into the guest booklet, and in the back of our booklet, there's a stamp page. So you'll take the stamp in the box, and you'll stamp the back of the booklet as proof that you have found the box. And if you do 6 quests, you can get a, what do you call it? A patch. It's an embroidered patch, sort of like a Girl Scout or Boy Scout, for, I think it's $3. For the patch. We're a nonprofit. This is just for the sheer fun of exploring what's all around us. Of late, there's a newfound interest in fairies. And originally, I was exploring, and we did establish a quest on the Hubble Preserve property in Scituate. And both Katie and myself thought it would be an appropriate place to put what we call a fairy door, because children love fairies. And to that end, I approached the town of Scituate, and there was some consternation about putting a fairy door or 2 on the property. And Katie, whose friend it is who constructs these doors, has some photographs of what these doors are, what they might look like, and their permanency. I'll let you speak to that.
So we found as we've put these, fighting the screen and iPads and that, getting kids out is becoming a little bit more challenging, I find. And so I started doing these about 4 years ago, and it really doubled the amount of people that got out. About, more, probably additional 150 to 200 people per quest when you added just some simple fairies in the woods. They're temporary, so these change every year. So you put them out for a year, and then from April to November, and then you bring them in. It's not like a permanent. And so simple clothespin fairies, and then a couple fairy doors. I have some pictures I can. There's small ones, there's big ones, they're all kind of, and we found it's been, it's such a simple concept, but they've been very powerful in the PR. And instead of kids being like, oh, I've got to get out, then they're more like, oh, let's go find the fairy, let's go find the door. And, it's such a small thing. And so they're just attached with a couple nails on a hinge. So,
If I might say, the reason that they're not permanent is simply because although we may have 15 quests in the book this year, about 25% of them are retired. So every year we're writing new quests, finding new properties, new locations. So there's nothing that can be permanent. It has to be removed because the quest will be removed. The box will be removed. Everything will sort of evaporate and a new location will be found. If that is very helpful.
Thank you. And I appreciate, I know that it's been a while in the mix. We've seen a couple of the emails, your requests. The commission's been busy. We haven't ignored it. Just trying to find a meeting that didn't go on for hours that would have a chance to chat. So we appreciate you taking the time tonight to come in as well and explain this. So, do you have anything you want to add to what you just?
I will just add that we can only intercalate a new quest once a year. In other words, this happens that we start our writing in the fall, and then by December, we're beginning to think about publishing a new book. So we're exploring properties. It isn't like, although if you were to give us permission to put doors on the property, we wouldn't do it right away anyway. It probably would take 2 years before it would actually happen.
So this season will be finished. In the fall, we would probably take and kind of edit the quest that Ellie created and then, install the doors. And so for the April, so we're talking about in a year, if we got permission, this would be.
Yeah, our season is April 15th to November 15th. I didn't mention that, but that's the questing season when, if the weather's, good enough to be able to do that.
It's a really magical trail out there. I think I'd love to get more people out there. And there's a few good spots for this kind of thing. There is kind of an art to this, putting them where you don't want too many people to find them, but if you go on the quest, you find it, that kind of thing.
It's a nice surprise.
Great. Let's see.
I do.
It's working its way around.
Yeah,
We
you can
share
keep
it.
that. If you'd like to keep that, please do. And you can take a closer look and see if it's, what you're interested in.
Thank you. Well, just any of the members that have a question or something. Lisa? Any?
Well, you never start with me. I'm
He's
usually
mixing it up a little. There you go, spotlight's on you.
my first question, first of all, I'd like to apologize for being late. Are these actually screwed into the tree?
Well, I'll let you
Yes,
test
there's
it.
one hinge to attach it. So yeah, it would be 2 screws at the bottom. They're usually around this size. So, yeah, we haven't found any other way to attach them. But it's similar to a trail marker or something that you would attach to a tree.
And then who's in charge of maintenance and cleaning up?
Each quest has a monitor, and that monitor is responsible for not only tallying the visitors every month, but also making sure that everything on the quest is in working order, that trees haven't fallen across the paths, or, that there might be, and we have a website, and all this information is available there. So one monitor per quest per year is responsible for maintaining the quest and informing the public if there's been any changes.
And in the fall, we take the box and everything, so it's taken. And,
Right, it's not left out for the winter.
Yeah.
Great.
And how many do you put out for one quest?
How many do we, what does that mean?
How many varied doors?
It
do you-
depends on the site. I mean, if the site is appropriate, but I would say probably no more than 2.
Yeah, usually 2.
Okay.
Or-
The reason is that they're labor intensive. It takes a long time to construct them. They're not, they're carefully thought out and designed and fit that site. And when we remove them, then they'll have to be rehashed and, the parts used somewhere else.
How many kids do you anticipate would come through because of these?
Last year, we had over 2,000 people for all 15 quests. So I think questing's relatively newer to Scituate than there was a quest in Scituate a couple years ago. Volunteers make them, so we're always looking for, more volunteers, whoever wants to create them, where they create them, and then they're reviewed. So it's place-based education. For, getting kids out so they can become the future conservation commissioners.
And where there are properties where teenagers in specific are hanging out and drinking, where there's evidence of where they've gone out to drink, they don't want families with young children or grandma and grandpa coming in with their grandkids going on those trails. So it really is beneficial to the town to have the public in and out of those properties. And so that does work too. Clearly it's not at night, I grant you that. But having them used and utilized and explored, it's a wonderful way for kids to begin to love nature and take care of,
And we're hoping to put up more of these posters so more people know about it.
Right. These are all over the South Shore. We have many, we sell our booklets in libraries, at the New England Wildlife Center, the South Shore Natural Science Center, and have done so for years. So.
Paul?
No questions.
Good. Really appreciate you coming in.
All right. Thank you for hearing us out.
Had one. The age, the target age, do you have it sounds like you're targeting young.
There are, we don't, there are a lot of adults that do this, but we have about, I think, 4 ones at fairies that target probably, depending on the spirit of the child, but I say about 6 to 11,
Okay.
6 to 12.
The reason why I asked is my son's been on some, and they're young adult. They're like in Vermont and New Hampshire.
That's right.
There is a huge program in
And
Vermont.
the clues are much more advanced, and the whole experience is much more advanced.
That's right.
And then there's a kind of a payoff at the end. It's more of a
Yeah.
competition.
They have a whole paid program with paid staff. We have a group of volunteers.
I
We did, yeah, but
appreciate
it's,
that you put that much work.
Well,
I'm
for
surprised
example-
if I've never heard of it before.
Well, the
Yeah, yeah.
Alden House in Duxbury, which is an historic site,
Yeah.
Priscilla and John Alden, have created a quest. So you could very neatly say that that's not just for small children.
Right.
And so it really is, if I have a sign in my house that says it's never too late to have a happy childhood, meaning that if you love to be out and about, you like puzzles, you like to explore, this is really a wonderful and low-budget way to do it. So I wouldn't want to limit the age to
yeah,
6 to
no,
11.
I went on
really.
them before.
Right, me
A lot of
too.
couples go on them.
Okay.
It was we were lucky. The last year, Chronicle did a shoot at the one in Cohasset at Holly Hill Farms. So if anybody Googles that, they can really get a sense of what it is.
Thank you.
Penny?
I don't have any questions. My hand is alone.
Okay. Amy, you want to add anything or any questions for this?
No, I mean, it appears that you're looking for approval in order to go ahead.
Correct.
So that would be up to the Conservation Commission
Sure.
to decide. So I guess take in what you've heard, and we can talk about it at a future date and get back to the organization.
Is there anybody in the audience that came in that had any questions about this? Okay. I think most of the questions that I had were answered. One of them that I wondered about was, is it usually done in groups or individually?
Well, that's an interesting question. I would say it's probably with three people in a group,
Okay.
a child and 2 parents, and
Yeah.
I'd say on average.
I lead groups on them, and it's a very different thing. If you have a family, then you go through the detail and follow the clues. If you have a group, they're just kind of running to the next
That's right.
thing,
Got it.
the next fair.
Well, we do have camp groups and Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts coming through. That, you have to sort of approach the quest a little bit differently because of its,
The reason I asked that question is more for parking and stuff, like our Hubble Trail, which is a
Yes.
fairly short trail between
That's an excellent question,
Indian
yeah.
Trail
Right.
and Gander Road, there is no formal parking. We're in the process of creating parking lots at some of our other properties. Right now, folks are pretty much parking along the side of the road. And there's
That's right.
places on both ends that are easy enough to park with 2 or 3 cars, but if, say, there were 20 people coming.
Oh, no, I would, that would be the outlier, that really, I'd say on average, it's either one family or 2 at most.
Yeah, it's usually 1 or 2 cars.
Okay, so I just, and I'd just like to say, personally, I'm all for getting folks out into the woods for whatever reason, and I know there was a little bit of concern about adding more things, elements in there. Some folks like to see nature as it is, but we do already create it. We carve a trail through the property so people can access it. We flag it with trails that we nail into the trees so that people don't get lost. And the fact that you're removing this, we've just had an incident, or a couple of incidents at our Driftway Park, which is a real popular park, but people take it upon themselves to just add things that they want to add to the park without permission or whatever, and if they're not taking it away, all of a sudden it becomes clutter. It's not,
Right.
it's not a piece. So the fact that you
We
take and
remove it
remove
because
it.
the Quest is closed
Yeah.
after probably 2 seasons.
Okay.
On average. It takes 2 seasons, then we retire it.
Sure.
Create something new.
Well, I personally am all in favor of getting people out into the woods for whatever reason, as long as it's healthy and informative and whatnot, so.
Please take a look at the booklet and get it back to us in your decision.
We will, we'll do that shortly.
Okay.
All right?
Very
And I
fine.
appreciate you taking the time to
Thank you.
come in.
Thanks for coming in.
All
Yeah,
right,
thanks
thank
so
you for
much.
having us.
We have a booklet, and you want your picture, you want your photographs back?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
So Dickens Row is going to be continued, I guess. I have a,
I make a motion to continue Dickens Road to January 17th at 6:20.
Do you mean January 17th?
I meant June.
June 17th at 6:20. I would,
Yeah, I'm in winter.
I would second the altered motion.
have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Um,
Oh, boy.
59 Glades Road, septic.
It's warm in here.
It's the same.
Isn't that
Yeah,
something?
it's such a complicated calculation. to
Yeah,
try to
it
figure
is,
out.
but I just noticed that.
Yeah.
Good evening. For the record, my name is James Garfield, engineer at Morse Engineering, here tonight representing Ed Walsh for the notice of intent for the proposed single-family dwelling at 59 Glades Road. As you guys know, this project was presented at the previous hearing. It got continued till tonight. We've revised the plans since, now showing the annual high tide line sitting at elevation 5.88. And we've also added transect AA and transect BB just to display that there is no coastal bank out at this site. With that, I'll leave it to you for any questions.
Kenny?
I don't have any questions.
Greg, you want to take a second?
No. Well, I saw it before, though. I think. Wasn't this
Yeah, this
presented once
was a
before?
couple meetings, and then it got
Couple days
continued.
ago, Yeah.
Well, that's 35.
And we've had a consultant review the
Yeah.
resource areas.
Oh, that's
Yeah, and I remember seeing the plan in the email, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Richard?
I was fine. I was able to see the televised version, and I saw what was needed. Looks like they've done it.
Paul?
No questions.
Lisa?
I have no questions.
Amy? Anything to add to it? Or we-
No, I think that they've done what we asked the applicant to do, so I would say we're ready to close.
Anybody in the audience for 59 Glades Road? All right.
I make a motion to close.
For a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great,
Thank you.
thank you. Lot 1, Judge Cushing Road. And this is a continuation also.
Correct. Again, for the record, my name is James Garfield, representing the applicant for the notice of intent for the new single-family dwelling at Lot 1, Judge Fisher Road. Since the last hearing, we've revised the plan to now show 2 systems of roof drywall chambers to the rear of the rear of the dwelling. We've added a soil stockpile area outside the 100-foot buffer. Provided a stabilized construction entrance, a crushed stone trench along the down gradient side of the proposed driveway. We've also added a shallow swale out by Judge Cushing Road to avoid any runoff going into the roadway. You guys have any questions?
Penny?
No, I don't have any questions.
Doug?
I do not.
There was
You can circle back. I know you- You can take a look for a minute. Richard?
I'm fine.
Good.
Lisa?
I'm just looking at my notes from last week. No, nothing.
Amy?
Looks good.
Anybody in the audience? Judge Cushing? It seems to me like you met the questions and the concerns and made those adjustments that we asked at the last meeting.
I think the biggest concern was that there was no runoff into the road and back to those people.
Okay.
Because it is all wet around it.
All right. If there's no more questions?
That's,
I'm good.
I
Okay.
make a motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm wondering, I know the next thing is 3, we have some RDAs. We also have folks in here from Toll Brothers. I'm just trying to decide which one we want to move to. I don't have a bill.
The idea is.
Probably the RDAs, right?
They're pretty easy. Yeah.
Unless, are you Toll Brothers or you
Yeah,
were?
Actually, I do if we get to another board meeting, maybe.
So Frank?
I'm fine to, I don't think this is going to take a long time
Yeah,
either.
yeah, that's
Thank
good.
you.
Well, it's
And then Mr.
So
Bates
this
can feel
falls
free to go
under-
too if he wants, so.
agent's report is what this is up on. So it's not a agenda item other than the fact that it's administrative agent's report. And Frank, I think you can just
Yep,
start in
Sure.
on what the dealio is.
yeah, let me pass these out.
I saw it.
So this, you guys can share these if you want. Go ahead, for the record, you guys, I know.
Sure, I'm Bill Orenberger, I'm here on behalf of Toll Brothers, I'm also with Dave Buckley, project manager, and also with Keith Curran from Toll Brothers.
Okay,
And Mark Manganello of LEC couldn't be here, but he did late, he already got a short time ago, and Mark sent a
can I
letter.
get a grab that? If you got an extra, I know it was emailed, but thanks.
Was that just today, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I saw.
Okay. So, the reason obviously we're here is the concern about the disturbance in what we would say the second phase of the project, which,
I brought that handy dandy map which shows phase 1 versus phase 2.
okay. And so, you know, obviously, phase 1 is well underway from what we can see on there. And for phase 2, the next step would have been a turtle sweep
Right.
of that property, and then an erosion control, and meetings with both conservation and planning before any formal work was done in that area.
Well, just, and again, if there's a misunderstanding from this standpoint, is we're under the impression, yes, we're going to the planning board because of some site-specific things, but under condition 20, when the pre-construction meeting happened, and again, I'm not trying to get the pre-construction meeting happened, under condition 20, it says after we have it, we can put down all the erosion control. So we didn't divide it into first phrase, second phrase. And what happened was, and again,
Look, Bill, maybe I can, I
yeah,
mean,
good, Frank.
like to kind of get back to where, and let you, we, it was probably a couple weeks ago, we had a site visit at the property, and we met and walked around to look at various things, and one of the concerns was erosion control along the access road, kind of where that green arrow is pointing, that the way that some of the grade changes were made and the amount of fill, that fill was moving down and knocking over the erosion control that separated Phase 1 from Phase 2. And we were requested at that time to allow the applicant, the Toll Brothers, to repair that erosion control, possibly move it in a little bit towards Phase 2 and stabilize that areas where the fence was down. And we agreed to that. There were several of us there. Amy was there, I was there.
The engineer from Horsley Witten was there too, well documented.
So there was a number of us there for that, and we talked about various things that were going to happen from there. That was what precipitated that. And then I got a call from the town planner that she had received notice from our engineer, Horsley Witten, that there was activity going on in Phase 2, and apparently she was witnessing tests elsewhere, so she couldn't leave it, and so I had a chance to stop there and take a look and say, you know, to the best of our knowledge, nothing should be happening in this area. And then subsequently, we wound up going out again to take a look at Phase 2, and what we found was actually quite a bit of activity within Phase 2. And we hadn't even done a turtle sweep or any work like that hadn't taken place. So the commission feels strongly that the Toll Brothers overstepped their bounds in the work that goes on in Phase 2. We did ask, along with this piece from LEC, to quantify how much area was disturbed in Phase 2, and I don't think I saw that. The area of actual, like, driving over that area. We asked for some square footage.
Let me get that to you, but I haven't seen the letter request, so my apologies if they didn't include that.
Yep. So it's pretty concerning to us. I mean, we've gone through this whole process, and the commission's worked fairly well with this project, and vice versa, that we've had different pieces along the way that we've been back and forth on. But this whole section was to be able to check out that area before there was activity, to make sure that there was no loss of turtles in that area. So when we walked it, to see the amount of area that was actually driven over is a real concern to this commission.
Understood.
And that's what we're at.
Okay.
So we do want to know the area that was that they feel was. I mean, I get a pretty good idea from the perimeter and seeing where the tracks are, but not only were there traffic around the perimeter, but there was also traffic back and forth through it, maybe ferrying material in or whatever. So it goes beyond just the perimeter. And my understanding is, when there's an area that's to be protected, that the first thing that they would do is go in and install a silt sock. And that silt sock does have to be buried to some degree, otherwise it's not effective. And the silt sock essentially establishes a barrier so that they can search the area within the silt sock and determine if there's any turtles in that area. And then also, it would keep turtles that are outside of that area from migrating in. So we don't have any problem with the silt sock the way it was installed, but we feel like that the commission was not given the opportunity to know that this was happening. And then B, that they started with the erosion control, which meant that there was quite a bit more activity. I mean, we've got pictures that show ruts and large must have been a tracked bobcat or something like that moving through this area. We also asked folks at LEC about the people that did this, and were they doing anything to make sure that they were looking out for turtles, and they told us that they thought that they were certified to do this sort of thing, but we had nobody said that there was anybody actually out there doing that.
Mark actually speaks to that. The company who did that has been trained in turtle habitat in preparation for sweeps and things along those lines.
So I guess to that point, if this company was trained to do that, then they should know that the first procedure is to put a silt sock in and do just that. So if they did know what they was doing, they certainly didn't follow procedure, in my mind.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I may have this backwards. Is the silt fence for the turtles, or is it for erosion?
I think it serves both, but primarily it's a
All right, but the sock is for, I thought the sock was for erosion, not
It is.
turtles.
So
they go in the same
the
location.
silt fence should have been the piece that was installed first,
Right.
before the turtle sweep.
Yeah, and the turtle sweep hasn't occurred yet.
That's correct.
Right. So, and again, in my ignorance, and I understand there's a communication thing, the commission had a different expectation didn't happen, but I just want to make sure we get this back in. So, the silt fence is in place now, and per the silt sock is 2/3 in, it was stopped per the request. But at least Mark Manganello said, whether it's for better or for worse, they thought that installation of both of them simultaneously was less invasive to do it that way. So you'd have to make 2 trips
Yeah.
and run it over. But
Go ahead.
that's the rationale. I'm not saying that the communication is correct. So,
Okay.
yeah, but,
Well, my look at it is, and we have pictures of both the area where both pieces were installed.
Yeah.
And I hope you folks don't mind, but I went out on the trip with Amy, so we'll get into this, and then you have your chance to ask any questions. If you take a look at some of the photographs where just a silt fence was installed, and where a silt sock and a silt fence were installed, the disturbance is much greater where the silt sock went down, because they have to carry that much more material in there.
Right.
So you're using like a ditch witch piece of equipment, which might be 3 or 4 feet wide. They still got to clear out some area around there, and they've got to carry this fencing in
Sure.
at different places. So there is a disturbance, but it's nowhere near to the degree of installing both. And I'd be kind of disappointed, I mean, LEC's your environmental person, to say that, that both would work, because it's clear in the photographs that there's a much greater area of disturbance when both are done. And as far as the misunderstanding, I mean, I was out on the site with that, and there's a lot of going on, there's equipment, there's noise, there's all kinds of stuff, but I was pretty certain that what we said was, fix the fence that's down, and then we'll deal with the rest of it in a due process.
Well, and can I just say that, Frank, that only 2 days prior, so we got the call on May 7th. On May 5th, we sat down with Toll Brothers as the town, together, a group meeting, in which we had a conversation specifically stating that no Phase 2 work would occur. So I don't know what was more clear than that, because there's certain milestones that need to be done in Phase 1 before Phase 2 work would be set out and started. And it also, as a reminder, comes on the heels of many other incidents that have happened since construction's begun. And I mean, Karen rattled off like 7 or 8 different items, which I can go through. Some of them are strictly planning board permit, but others are related to our stormwater permit, which we hold jointly with the planning board. So, and as we know, there were some significant stormwater issues that have been happening that we've been dealing with.
Yep.
But but it comes right on the heels of that meeting, so it was such a surprise.
Right.
two things I'd say. I wasn't at that meeting, but Well, one thing I'd ask Commissioner, please do, is don't, the set of issues with the planning board is a black and white difference in conservation. We'll take whatever the issues with conservation, but there is the criteria having to do it, because there's conflicts between the order of conditions, and there's conflicts between the planning board special permit, so I could spend 3 hours talking about those.
Not tonight.
No, I know, how we manage it. But the point I'm getting at is the planning board stuff, leave that aside, but the bottom line is, I'd say, yeah, we're not going into phase 2 because of the planning board requirement for planning board issues there, but I agree with you, if the discussion was there, you're not gonna put it on the silk sock and they put it down, you shouldn't. No ifs, ands, or buts. But the fact remains, it's done.
So,
And there's a verbal cease and desist on that portion of the site.
right.
We've agreed to keep you running on phase 1,
Sure.
although as in violation of the order, I mean, the commission does have the right to expand on that cease and desist. But I mean, I think that's why we're having a chat right now, is to figure out what's the best action to take and in the best interest of the town. I mean, the permit is quite comprehensive and spells out pretty clearly what the expectations are and what's allowed and what's not.
Well, what I would say to that, and again, the purpose we here tonight is to, hopefully from our standpoint, get our communication clear, so we understand that obviously that's a necessity. But I don't want to get into it. I'd like to knock it down the road about whether it's a violation of orders or not, because I have some very, very strong feelings on that. But nevertheless, I recognize that equally or more important than that is how everyone works together. And so that's really what we're here to do. And the other thing, which is probably the predominant thing of all things, is the reason we want to get into phase 2 is to get this thing stabilized while there's good weather, so there aren't any issues with erosion or anything. Now, I know that isn't, if you're just meeting and said, well, it happened, I shouldn't have done that, but that's kind of the sense of
So
urgency.
that eagerness, Bill, to move things along
Right.
and get the job done is what's a concern to the commission. And I realize that there's parts of this project have purview by the building department, parts of it have purview by the DPW, parts of it by the planning board, and parts of it by us. But that town as a whole looks at this project, and there's cooperation between the different boards, just as you requested, and we wanted to have, drainage issues and stormwater issues were addressed by both boards. So the members are familiar with each other. Sometimes people are out, so one person's covering for another. So the town's different boards are certainly, I think, within their purview to be looking at these things with each other.
Oh, absolutely.
We have to enforce the pieces that are ours, and there's others that the planning board will address, but certainly in the best interest of the town, they're gonna look at those things together.
Can I just
Yeah.
insert one point? The meeting that the point, or one of the main points of the meeting that we had with Toll Brothers 2 days prior to being notified of this disturbance was to staff full-time a peer review consultant, because the town felt that there was not adequate oversight in all the incidents that had been occurring. And so Horsley Witten's representatives are there 5 days a week now. And that had just started the week that this happened. And the engineer was doing something else, like Frank said, on a different portion of the site. But there's so much going on at that site at once that, it's no wonder why things happen, but there's
Well, I think
a lot of moving
some
pieces.
things are fairly clear, though. They're fairly well documented, this is what's supposed to happen, and on we go. And when we get into something like, an endangered species, the commission it's something that's pretty serious for the commission, and whether they'll find anything when they sweep that area or not, I don't know, but I was on the site visit with several of representatives, our commission, peer review, and there was a turtle, so.
Eastern Box Turtle.
Yeah, so that's why we're in the middle of doing that. I also know that in talking with both the folks from Horsley Witten and LEC that time is of the essence to do this sweep. As time goes by, you know, the leaves are popping out like crazy, and pretty soon they're not gonna be able to do a really thorough search. So, you know, and then if that doesn't happen, are we comfortable that they can search it, you know, when this shakes out? Should they be able to continue?
Well, they searched initially in the fall.
Right.
So, I mean, that's an option. I've put a call in to Emily Holt of Natural Heritage just to talk about jurisdictional issues and if we've got to cease and desist with the Wetlands Protection Act and order of conditions, how that impacts their jurisdiction and what happens. Because in LEC's letter, they're indicating that they want to move right into the sweep now that they have everything set up to do it, so. But again, it goes back to there was no permission given, period, to
Right.
go into that phase 2.
Yep.
Why, and again, my own ignorance, why wouldn't you want the turtle sweep done if it's the optimum time right now?
I think the issue that the commission has, and the part that I don't see anybody hearing on this side, is that we have a real concern that the protocol and the regulatory pieces, for lack of a better word, are not being followed on that site. And I've seen emails from various other pieces that are like, oh geez, we forgot to let you know about that, or something else. I mean, everybody knows that they want to move this job along. The town's frustrated that they don't have enough people to keep an eye on it. There's an awful lot of people moving on the site where the Toll Brothers has enough people to keep an eye on it. It is a genuine and an obvious issue. I mean, in my mind.
No, I understand, so, you know, I'll let Dave Buckley speak to it, but what I'm saying is, you know, talking with Dave and the other, they hear loud and clear what the town says, but Dave, I don't know.
I mean, I absolutely understand the concerns of the board, and trust me when I say we weren't in no way looking to rush anything from a construction standpoint. Going out there and doing the work that occurred is a one-day process. It doesn't gain us anything. The entire purpose of what we went out there was primarily driven around the turtle sweeps. From a construction standpoint, it gains us really nothing in the grand scheme of things. That the installation of the turtle fencing, I believe Keith can speak, but I believe was on our schedule that we sent to the town. So it was on there as well. You know, true, I believe we just said turtle fencing, but, you know, much maybe to our assumption when we began the project at the very onset, we had in the conditions, with conservation order conditions, it permits us to install erosion control prior to the pre-construction meeting. And planning had a little bit of a conflict, which it didn't quite say that. So how we work things at the very beginning, even prior to the pre-construction meeting, we went out, we installed silt fence and log at the same time in the same process, with the same company that's trained and knowledgeable in everything required for turtle sweeps, and they're knowledgeable in both erosion control and turtle fencing. So it made sense, and you know, maybe it was our assumption that everyone was on the same page, but to do the same exact thing for everything in phase 2, primarily driven to do the turtle sweeps, was exactly what we told our vendor to do. And that's really where we're at right now. The very second I was notified that anyone had an issue, I said, okay, let's pause what we're doing. We're not looking to upset anyone or do something that somebody thinks we shouldn't be doing. Let us regroup and look at it. We're not out to rush anything whatsoever. I mean, we want to follow the proper protocol. We genuinely did. Obviously, I understand there was a misunderstanding in person, and you know, we thought it was in the schedule, and we did exactly what we had done many lineal feet of in the very first phase without issue. We maybe incorrectly assumed that if we did exactly what we did before, that was what we should be doing, and it follows as far as conservation follows what we're allowed to do on whatever condition 20, whatever, 21 in there. So maybe that was just our, maybe we were wrong, but we thought we were following all the protocols that we were supposed to do.
Well, here's a step that was skipped, was number 51, was before anything was to happen. I mean, putting aside all the other permissions, was just a letter from their engineer staking the location so that we even know that where they put the silt fence is in the accurate location. So that was supposed to be a certification before anything went in the ground.
Correct, that certification.
That step was skipped.
Well, that would happen afterwards, because and how we did it even afterwards, after it's an as-built, so after it got installed, it was getting as-builted and then certified afterwards. So an engineer can't certify it's been installed where it's supposed to be until after it's installed. So we would, of course, if we had completed the erosion control, we of course would have gone out there with our survey teams, staked that line, double that certified, and they would have produced a certification letter that what was done was proper. And so we absolutely would have done that if we had finished the erosion control portion of it, which, as Bill said at the onset, obviously we stopped it the second we heard there was an issue. So no way, and I apologize that we're even here this evening, that we're looking to follow the protocol. We're not looking to create any sort of strife or issues with anyone. I think it was just an honest misunderstanding of expectations in this particular case.
Do you know if, I don't think Keith was on site for phase one. Was both erosion control and the silt fence installed simultaneously
Correct,
during
yes.
phase one?
Yes, and that's why maybe that's why we didn't even think twice about we made the same phone call, we had the same detail, we sent it to the same vendor who's knowledgeable in this. Maybe that was our error, but we in every way genuinely thought we were doing what we were supposed to be doing, completely initiated by the turtle sweeps and our environmentalist LEC. From a purely construction standpoint, we have no need for it today. It gains us nothing from a sequencing standpoint. We have nothing to gain by doing this one-day activity in any way whatsoever in the grand scheme of how we look at things from a project site. So that's.
Well, I assume that there's some cost savings to lay down both of them at the same time, but.
No, not really to be, it's not even a cost issue, honestly. It's purely just they're moving in there, they have the detail, that's what we did prior. I apologize for the misunderstanding.
I mean, I'm no expert on turtle searches or sweeps, only the things that I've read, but the part that I read was that we're supposed to install a fence in a pretty non-invasive manner and then follow up with the others. So I guess it's just surprising to me that people that put that in all the time would do that.
Yeah, a lot of the issue on this site, speaking from experience on this site, as I think some of you've seen,
It's the only one
it's a very dense site. It's sort of vegetatively. Is a lot of it's a thicket. I mean, it's a thicket of some native and lots of invasive material. In some sections is almost not traversable. So even going in there you have to use some machinery, hand tools, etc., and some machinery to actually clear a small path. There's no other way of saying it, to actually be able to do this work, which is how we had to do it in the first phase and how we had to do it here. It's, obviously if this was more of a wide open setting like, say, Plymouth and the nice easy woods and sand, you don't have to do that. But here's challenging from that perspective for our surveys before we clear, and from our erosion control guys. It's a bit of a work for them. So that's really why you see some of the disturbance that you see. It's certainly a lot easier just to walk in there and lay it down by hand.
Well, you're not gonna, the fence has to go in and be buried, so there has to be a device to do that, I get that.
Roots and, yeah.
But
boulders
we
and
can
whatnot.
see, walking through there, the difference between where they came along afterwards and laid down erosion control, that there was a much wider area of disturbance because you're driving a tracked vehicle or something, you know, which is almost 6, 7 feet wide through that area versus laying in the sock. So it just, in terms of protecting an area, doing the pieces that we're supposed to do, that seems counter to what we're trying to achieve there. And I'm
Oh, we
gonna
understand that.
let's leave this open. Anybody else want to jump in? Because I'm so.
Well, number one, how do we prevent this from happening again? Miscommunication, whatever. It shouldn't have been done. I saw it one site one time. We didn't even know turtles lived there, and I saw a massacre because they had equipment. I never want to see that again. So, to Frank's point, the smallest swath, I hear you did it on the other one. I don't know, I just don't want the turtles. I want the turtles kept safe. I don't want any more miscommunications. I don't want to feel as though somebody's trying to get something done ahead of time, because I know there's a lot left on phase one that should be completed before we even step on phase two. You know, and it just, how do we resolve that this will not happen again on something else? Of course, now we're gonna do the turtle sweep. You've already gone through. So if equipment squash some turtles, it squash some turtles. We can't get them back. But on something else, I just don't want this to be an ongoing thing of overhead miscommunication.
No,
Pick up the
we
phone and call.
we certainly don't either. I mean,
No, I
in any way
surely don't.
whatsoever. I mean, and I know we have weekly schedules we submit, and, you know, I don't know if, Amy, if you're in the loop on those every week, or if, you know, maybe I think it's a good thing that we'll make sure, we traditionally have been, I think, just copying Karen, and I don't know if you're in the loop, so I think one thing that would definitely help to make sure that you're copied on that weekly schedule as well, even if, for whatever reason, most of it is not jurisdictional areas, at the very least, I think that may or may not have helped in this
Well,
case.
you can copy me in on it, but that doesn't make me have time to be able to look at it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
The point
I mean-
is, we have a peer review consultant who keeps an eye on the project for us to lighten the load, because there's so much going on. We specifically you know, it was request to repair a small section of the phase one area, which we gave in the field, and so that was put on the schedule. How it went sideways, I mean, I think it's disingenuous to represent otherwise, that they just went ahead and went into phase two, even though we had meetings specifically saying that the town did not want that to happen. So, I don't know, I think we're beating a dead horse.
All
at
right,
this
Doug, I
point.
just want to run through, folks, if, Doug, any thoughts or questions?
No, I think I got this is a little new to me, but I think I got the story and followed all of this. It sounds like you've already made some steps towards changing procedures by having a full-time peer review on site now all the time. So it seems, I guess I'm ready to not talk about that and move on to what happens next, I guess. What do we do now to move forward?
Richard?
The only thing I would add, so we're not totally beating a dead horse, is I assume that you'd rather not be in our meetings. So let's make sure it doesn't happen again.
I like all of you, but yes, I'll agree with
And
you.
that's okay if we don't have to see you at our meetings either. I'd rather see you in the field sometime, or see you when the project is completed. So, yeah, let's just get it so nothing happens like this again.
Yeah, what you alluded to a little bit, we've been going round and round about what happened and what wasn't supposed to happen. Where do we want to, what's our position where we want to go from here, from where we're at? Do we want the barrier all checked without a silt sock, with a turtle sweep? Do we want nothing touched on phase two? Where do we go from where we're at right now?
Well,
That's the real,
well, the process, I think, at this point would be to do the turtle sweep, and then once it's confirmed that turtles have either not there or been removed, then they can wrap up their erosion control at some point. but it's the turtle sweep next.
Right. Is the whole barrier up?
The barrier's complete.
Okay, so then a turtle sweep and then erosion control.
If that's what we agree, get the turtle sweep out of the way, and then if it's moving into phase 2, then the erosion control is really, in my mind, part of moving into phase 2. Lisa?
I agree with everything that's been said. I do have a question. So I just want to make sure I understand. Amy, you claim on May 5th, the town stated there was no phase work to be done.
We were at it, right, yep.
Okay, were you at that meeting?
Which particular meeting you're referring to?
The meeting we had on
I apologize, I lose
Tuesday, were
track
you
with
here at that
Dave.
meeting? I think you were at that meeting.
I most likely were, was, I should
It's
say.
the last meeting we had with Karen, the town,
Mm-hmm,
this table,
yeah.
probably. Board of Health was there, we ran through a whole host of issues that the town was concerned about relating to objecting the possibility of going into phase 2, and then just ongoing
Yeah,
management of the site.
And the major discussion on phase 2 was in the context of clear cutting trees, digging in pipe, bringing in truckloads of fill. That was the context of really the discussion that we had on phase 2, and we were discussing the timing of that and the various different concerns, which we obviously haven't discussed it in any further detail. That was the real greater discussion that we
Okay,
had.
but that's very different from no work to be going on in phase 2.
Yeah, that was the context of what we were talking about, yes.
Right, so were you under the impression that no work was to be done in phase 2?
Absolutely, absolutely, and.
I don't understand how
Yeah.
Amy could think no work at all, and then this happens. Who authorized this? Who authorized this work?
The turtle barrier,
I authorized a contractor to install the turtle protection.
I'm sorry, what?
Keith Turner, I authorized a contractor to install the turtle protection. It's documented here, we talked about it, about the miscommunication. I was under the impression that we were given permission, I was given permission. So that's why I moved forward. Verbal, I didn't follow up with an email or written.
Well, we've got written documentation that it was a repair to the existing turtle fence. So it was nothing about going into phase 2.
So see, we have
I was involved in
miscommunications.
that, I was involved in that correspondence that I didn't see any written.
So people that don't attend meetings, how does what is a better way to get the information funneled down so we don't have this problem again? How do we prevent it?
I don't think there's anything left that's subject to error. But the point is, and I understand exactly what you're saying, Lisa, but I think any fair-minded person could say, if you put down many thousands of feet of silt fence with many thousands of feet of sock, and then you're putting this down, I think you can see why it's caused confusion as to, okay, now we're gonna deviate from the way we've done 10,000 feet of stuff. In other words, so if nothing's said, you can see how, I'm not saying it's correct, that an assumption we made, people do it the same way.
No more assumptions.
Huh?
No more assumptions in
No,
black
no,
and
no,
white.
I understand that,
Yeah.
Penny, but what I'm
Yeah.
saying is there's nothing malicious here.
No,
This
no,
is-
I hear you.
Right, no, it's how do we fix this and move forward now? We can talk in
Right,
circles
so
about what
How do we
happened.
prevent a miscommunication? That's
Well,
all I'm
one
saying
way-
is
They're sitting here,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, talking it through and trying to establish what to do in the future and what our expectations are, I think is important. We did talk about enforcement order with a fine as one option. Frank and I had discussed that. I did talk to town council about that today, too. So that is an option. I mean, I don't know, I'm getting the feeling that you're not leaning in that direction, so.
I wouldn't say that. I think that we want to know the area disturbance, and I think that the commission can consider a fine
Yeah.
for that violation, and I don't think that's off the table.
Well, and I think that there's clearly two separate violations. One is that they started phase 2 before they completed phase 1. And then the second one is just non-compliance with the turtle protection plan as written. And that would be, going beyond the scope
Yeah.
by putting in that erosion control rather than just a silt
Sure.
fence. But Anyways.
Yeah, and I really don't want to get into this discussion of fines tonight.
Okay.
I think, to me, what we should do is decide whether or not we want to, right now, there's an enforcement order. So the question is, do we want to allow them to proceed with the turtle sweep?
A cease and desist, you mean?
A cease and desist. Right now, there's a cease and desist. Do we want to allow them to proceed with just the turtle sweep? And the information that I got from both our consultant that's reviewing the project and LEC, that they could do the best job of sweeping that site now. And so if we feel that we can tell them to go forward and get that piece of it done, no more erosion control, no other activity in there, just the sweep. If the commission is good with that.
Well, yeah, if the barrier's up, the less vegetation, the better it's
Yeah.
gonna be, and
To Amy's point, I think it's two separate issues, and yes, I think the turtle sweep makes absolute sense, but that doesn't change anything about Phase 1 to Phase 2.
Right.
I think that has to be clear.
All right. Do you
So
have
we're
enough
giving them permission to sweep it.
to sweep it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And reserving our discretion on how we want to move forward with either fine or whatever.
So just to take it
Okay.
forward, assuming everything works out the way we anticipated. So after the turtle sweep comes out negative, right?
Mhm.
Then at that juncture, we speak with Amy, and at that juncture, once it's clear the roads, then they can continue with the siltation stuff, right?
Well, I think the opinion of
No.
Amy and the planning board is that the installation of the rest of the erosion control is in fact starting Phase 2. So we need to talk about whether it makes sense to allow them to complete the erosion control in Phase 2.
We'll see to what you say, but there's nothing in the order of conditions that says we cannot put up erosion control.
What about,
As a matter of fact, in the planning board, but as a practical matter, waiting on the planning board, actually what the planning board says is that we can cut, even without the approval of Phase 2, we can cut 25 feet into Phase 2. That's what it says.
But in our permit, though, this is not
I
time
really,
for this
yeah.
discussion, but it's,
I
there's
think-
not permission to go into Phase 2. The site's not far enough along. There's not, they haven't demonstrated that the stormwater's fully installed
Yeah,
and
and
stabilized.
again, I don't want to get
The
in,
application's not
the intention,
done.
but
I mean, there are some big ticket items that have yet to be completed. It's not that they're not going to get there, but they're not there yet.
The point I'm saying is, if we're comfortable doing the turtle sweep, then let's move forward. We're gonna be before the planning board and get, all this is gonna be very shortly anyhow, so we'll hold that.
so let's get the rest of that resolved. I think it's important to us, it's important to you, to get the sweep done.
Got it.
That's it.
Yep.
And then we'll hammer out these other pieces and figure out whose I's are dotted correctly and go from there.
Sure, so let me ask you one other question, just sort of for clarification. So, go for the planning board says fine, go with Phase 2. Do you want us to come back and talk to you guys?
I think we should get notification if we're,
Well, yeah, that's fine, because Amy, you're gonna be at that.
Do you have to
meeting.
come back to another meeting? No.
No,
Yeah.
okay, fine.
We can
Okay,
handle
got
that not in a
Okay.
meeting. Yep.
Perfect.
all right.
No,
Okay.
I really appreciate Amy and the board talking to us. I know this is an unfortunate situation, and try to assure that there isn't any further miscommunication on that.
Sounds good.
All right?
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. RDA's, 27 Lowell Street, footings for deck above porch. On May 20th, 2019, at the 6:15 meeting at Town Hall, the Scituate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Kevin Kavanaugh for determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands Bylaw to install 3 footings for roof deck on existing porch on property located at 27 Lowell Street, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Good evening.
Hi,
And your name for the record?
Kathy Kavanaugh.
Kathy.
I'm here in lieu of my contractor. Gave me the information.
Okay.
And Can I just say something to
Let us
follow?
know, sure.
He gave me a note, he just wanted me to say this. The 3 footings are like a big drill, and they don't displace a lot of sand. It's a new method.
So like a
It's
helical?
like a concrete footing. Wait, let me start that again. The 3 footings are like a big drill. They don't displace a lot of sand like a concrete footing would. The roof deck is replacing an existing porch roof, so it isn't taking a new area where water could be getting absorbed into the sand.
Good job.
Do we have a drawing or anything of this?
You have a
Yeah,
little,
well, this is
yeah, send that along.
Oh, I
shows
think I saw it now
the
that I...
porch.
So it sounds like you might be using some helical footings.
He didn't name it, he just said it's a new method. I have his number, he said if there was any questions.
I think we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right over the existing porch.
Thank you.
Gonna be a new room for the porch.
Penny?
No, I don't have any questions.
Doug?
None.
Good.
Walt?
Nope.
Lisa?
Nothing.
Amy?
No, I mean, Barrier Beach, land technical storm flowage,
Next time I need a permit. You want to come in and get that?
with a -3.
Yeah. You press them.
-3.
You did
Anybody,
good.
anybody in the audience?
I make a motion for a -3. That's
Second.
That's-
That's a good thing.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good luck with your project.
Thanks a lot.
On May 20th, 2000, this is for
315
315
Central.
Central Ave. On May 20th, 2019, at 6:15 meeting in the Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Elizabeth Sherman for determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate bylaws to resurface an existing driveway with impervious crushed stone on property located at 315 Central Ave, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Good evening.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Sherman. I hope this isn't gonna be too painful.
So what are your plans?
I want to, okay, I have to read it. Request to resurface existing driveways with impervious stone. I already have it, the stone there.
So you already have crushed stone?
Yes.
Correct.
And you want to remove that and put new
No,
stone?
I
No,
don't want to
just-
remove it, just resurface.
You just want to add
it.
stone?
Just add stone. The existing, the existing driveway on one side of the house is, the stone has all basically gone into the soil and washed away.
'Cause it was
And on the other
True.
side, they've raised River Road up with the crushed stone, and now all the water pools because it's so low, and there's no stone left there. So we just want to put
Did this,
impervious stone.
I'm sorry, did this happen when they built the last new house on River Road?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
She raised the road probably about 2.5 inches,
Yeah,
and
it's
now
like
it's
a
all
river.
draining.
So now you.
So you're just raising yours a few inches?
We're just, yep, just putting down the
Just-
stone to raise it so that it doesn't all drain, it's a
We're not
pool.
adding 2 feet, we're just adding...
No, 2 inches. It's a pool. You can
It's
come
Central
raise-
Ave, the ocean's gonna come in and it's all stone anyway.
Yeah.
It's on the marsh side.
Doug?
No
problem.
No,
Richard?
That's fine, they need to do it, actually.
Okay.
Lisa?
Make it
Penny?
level.
Amy,
Road.
Oh, yeah. Did Penny, did you already say?
Yeah, I said no.
What are the pilings for?
Right.
good.
I'm sorry, what are the pilings for? The pilings around the side driveway to keep somebody from driving through the house. They're,
Bollards.
Oh, yeah, and there's a mound there.
yeah,
That was
There's-
really dangerous.
There's a big mound of dirt on the side driveway.
Yes, there is.
That, actually falls down a cliff, and it's almost been backed over into, Mr. Astor's house. So those are, there's no footings in the ground, they are just sitting,
They're just laying there.
they're just basic, yes, yes. Because I know the footing rule and all of that, when the water reclaims Hummerock, they will float away.
Yeah, probably to my house.
Hey, I'm the driver.
Yeah.
The
So
pipes
you
in
don't
the
drive
truck.
off the cliff, huh?
Oh, jeez, I panic every, so now I feel safe.
Yeah, it's not bad. Open the doors. Okay.
Well, anyways,
Anybody in the audience?
Thank you for opening the window.
Okay, I have a motion?
I make a motion for a -3.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
How do they look, though? Good. I dug them. Yes.
Good for you.
Thank you for being so patient.
And I think the turtles should be swept.
It's going to be swept. They will be swept.
25 Gilson Road?
Thanks.
Do you need any help, Frank?
That is ready for you tomorrow.
I'm always timely with my suggestions.
Took my cue from the boss.
Oh, my God, Frank,
That
it
shower
feels
came
so
through, that
good.
feels
I know,
good.
the temperature's changed, it feels great out there.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's why they get the big bucks.
Yeah, there's me.
On May 20th, 2019, the 6:15 meeting at Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Jennifer and Wayne Stockbridge for a determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands bylaws to expand a deck 5 feet on property located at 25 Gilson Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Good evening.
Hey there, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
Good. So, as you mentioned, we're at 25 Gilson, so it's the third cliff, and we're in the marsh area before you go up on the cliff. And as you mentioned, also, we're looking to extend our deck 5 feet into the backyard, so 5 feet out and 20 feet across. So what we've done thus far is we work with Amy's help in speaking with Steve Ivis from Ivis Environmental. He came out and kind of did a replot of our backyard, and the proposed deck is within 63 feet of the salt marsh. So we're working with a local builder, Eric Russell, I believe, and his intent is to construct the new deck with this diamond pier foundation system, where you're actually not putting anything into the ground, it sits on top of the ground.
Except for these little posts.
Yep.
To hold it in place. So that's our ask, basically.
Do we have a sketch or a drawing or anything?
No, not really, just the site.
I was looking for a picture, but I'm not finding one either.
And Steve Ivis says that the proposed deck is 63 feet from the edge of the marsh?
Yes.
Right, they had an older plan that was updated,
Yep.
so we had just had them update the line.
Okay. I haven't tried those yet. Can I come out in 5 years and see how they
Sure,
work?
absolutely.
How they work out?
I was gonna ask you, I just learned about them last week, and here's the first one. I just wanna know if they work so I can use them.
They said,
I don't wanna dig either.
they said Hurricane Katrina, where is this? Hurricane Katrina and another one of the hurricanes, Dennis. Not a single diamond pier had been compromised.
They sound too good to be true.
Exactly.
I know.
Exactly.
I know. But
They're
he's
stamped by an engineer, Doug, so they must be perfect.
Just the
supposedly much
backyard.
less invasive to.
Oh, I would
Yep.
say so.
Yeah.
They're less invasive on my back.
That too.
Digging
So,
a hole.
any questions?
No, that's interesting.
No,
In the
no.
audience? Okay, I'll
Make
take a
a
motion.
motion for a -3.
Second?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Let us know.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you.
for coming in.
We'll come down and.
Actually, a detailed report would be
We'll have
nice.
drinks on the deck, right?
First hurricane, that's what it is.
Yeah, I find these factors. No, but that's interesting.
They have these
Thanks, yeah.
metal posts, right? You
Yeah.
put the pier down and you pound them in on the side and go in at an angle.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
And that secures it enough that
But what if you have like tilly, rocky soil? It's not gonna work.
May not work.
Then it doesn't
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
Detailed report when you're done.
I asked about that.
like sand.
And he said for the purpose of a deck, it would be perfectly fine. Like if that were an issue for a house, you would do it.
Right.
Yeah,
For a
no.
deck purpose, it'd be fine, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We all learned something.
So we like to clean out the room, but,
Yeah, right, huh?
and your name is?
Jack Gates, 60 Towns Road.
Go on,
Jen, do we have those photos? Does Frank have those?
No.
I think I've seen a
You got
couple.
it?
I got it.
All right, you got it, okay.
Yeah.
I brought a photo too if you need one.
Okay. So, so you're at
60 Townsend.
60 Townsend?
Yep.
So I think the reason you hit it, Mr. Gates, is because there's some clearing on town property?
Yeah, apparently so.
Okay. So you abut the new Curtis Farm subdivision.
Correct.
And so, I don't know if you're aware, but in the process of the Curtis Farm subdivision being built, they built what they call a flexible open space. So the developer actually turned over a portion of land between their subdivision and your property to the Conservation Commission for our, for us to protect it, essentially, is what we're supposed to do.
Okay.
And a flexible open space is a little different than a conventional subdivision. A conventional subdivision would have meant that they would have built right up to your property line. And then when they do the flexible open space, the town lets the developer build on smaller lots with the idea of protecting some open space. And the commission negotiated with the developers for a while. And not only did we got that strip, but also acreage between Hatherley School and the end of Townsend. So I think what we wound up with a total of 15 acres or 12 acres, or something, I can't remember.
Sounds about right, yeah.
The majority of that is where? Is that on Hadley?
Mostly between Hatherley and the end of Townsend, but then there's also the strip that goes around the subdivision as something that's supposed to remain open. And I know it doesn't seem like a huge space, but it does become essentially town property.
Right.
So then we have care and custody of that property, and we're supposed to look out for that property.
Right.
So maybe you can explain where you're at with
Sure.
this.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to work with you guys, because it'd be great. I don't know if you guys have some funds to plant trees, but it would be great if we could do that. Or maybe come to a conclusion that might be a nice way to handle it. Yeah, we had assumed that when the property, and I don't care if the property is being developed, it's not my land, so I'm not against the property being developing, it's fantastic. They're gonna put some nice houses up there. But that area is literally thorns, briars, poison ivy, and that constantly has rolled over that stone wall into my yard. We just assumed that once the property was going to be developed, that Mr. Gillespie was going to put up some nice buffer trees, which he usually does. He does a nice job with that and has no problems doing that. He's on some nice places up on Battles Hill Road, up where I live as well. And my wife had once we found out, we said that there's a sign there that says, I forget what it even says, nothing about conservation. It says a buffer, a protected land, or something along those lines. On the other side, not on our side, on the side from
Right.
coming from the new development. And my wife had come down to the town and asked if there's any way they could clear that stuff out, and because it is a lot of poison ivy. Kids get poison ivy. Wife's been hospitalized, been to the hospital for poison ivy from that area. Even just being out there in the yard, she's very allergic to it. And they said, oh, no, that's going to be a buffer zone for you. And Gillespie wasn't going to do anything. The town didn't seem like they were going to do anything. Maybe presumptuous that I was that wasn't going to take over the land. But so we just decided the best option. We had a buddy of mine who was had a backhoe, and we just cleared the place out. And we just going to plant some trees.
All right. Well, why don't the process is that we just go through the commission members
Yeah.
and let them ask you a question. So, Penny?
See, the
And I have-
problem is, what you did, that was a buffer zone, and you weren't supposed to touch it. And if anything, it would be native habitat would have in there, not landscape trees and such like that. So, because it's a buffer, it's meant for the critters, it's not meant for the humans. Okay, and it's not meant to be landscaped, it's supposed to be natural. So we have a problem in you at all, in natural. I know it's briars and stuff, but the critters like the briars, they hide in there and so forth. So we do have a problem. We're probably gonna have to do a planting plan.
Doug?
Yeah, so this is like the pre-picture, the before?
No,
That's when things cleared.
no. Let me show you something. So what you guys have decided to keep
Right.
was an area from the wall to there, which is about 20 feet
Okay.
by about
right,
200 of thorns for our protection.
Right.
This was not, no, we did.
No
we-
trees or anything?
No trees, nothing. Literally, it was, may have been the size of, just brush that was in here, that we just wanted to clear out, mainly because we didn't want the briars and
Right,
the poison ivy coming, encroaching back into the land.
I have the same issue.
So we just, instead of me killing it, I would just spray it and try to keep it away from me, which I've tried numerous times before. The idea was just to kind of plant some abrevieties as a buffer, because as you can see now, that protected land, that
That's
the
a
town.
foundation I'm looking at.
What's that? That's a
That's a
foundation you're
foundation.
looking at, and you can see there's not a whole lot of buffer there, and I was just hoping we could grab some, put some nice abrevieties in there to make a nice buffer, and since no one was doing anything with that piece.
Can you send that to us?
He
Yeah,
wants to
yeah,
see it.
So you were planning on putting a road, some trees, arborvitae's or
Yeah.
something like that?
On town property?
Well, you know, I didn't realize it was conservation land until the planning board folks came out there and talked to me. I had no idea it was
But
conservation land.
Did you think it was your land?
No, I know, as I said earlier, maybe a little bit presumptuous to do that, but the town didn't seem like they wanted to do anything, so I didn't think it would be any harm to put some trees out there, really.
Richard?
I don't think I need to say anymore.
Well,
Nothing.
Lisa?
It happens.
It just needs to go back to natural.
Amy?
Right, well, so, I mean, in other cases like this, I mean, they come up from time to time, there's encroachment cases on town property, a lot of them, actually. But when the actions are, you know, and it's a big area or whatever, in the past, you've had the offending owner or whatever, a butter, I guess you could say, come up with a plan to restore the area. So I guess evaluate what was lost and then replace in kind, some kind of ratio to, it'll eventually all grow back for sure.
It sure will.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, I'm not sure if the number of mature trees that were taken down, but I guess that would be something that a professional could give us a report.
I'm telling you, there was none.
There was no trees that came down?
No trees that came down.
Just,
There was about 35 acres of trees that came down.
No, I'm
Not in
just
that
talking
section.
in this area. I was
No, I know,
under
there's a lot of land that was not
Frank,
preserved to do that,
Do you
to do
think some
that
kind of
piece.
post?
As a matter of fact, I
so
saw a couple, when they
it
were
will
clear cutting,
distinguish
I saw some trees
when
come
the buffer
down,
starts, so he-
and I went over to take a look at them after they were done.
Yeah.
I saw about 2 dozen
On the
birds
side
flying on
facing
the top
the
of
new
the trees, the top of the
subdivision.
tree was in the ground. That's
Okay.
not,
To keep
you know,
them
it
from-
wouldn't be a bad idea to have some
So now
trees.
We know we
to be
had to
perfectly
put
frank.
posts
Right.
on the other
Yeah.
If you
side.
can help me out with that, that'd be great.
You
If
can't
there's some
stop people
protocol you
getting
can tell me
about property
how we
rights.
get that done, I'll be
You
happy to
can't
follow
stop
the protocol.
people who don't care about
But it's
property
really
rights.
ridiculous.
When I do work, I get a
Frankly,
survey first.
in all due respect, it's ridiculous to conserve a 20 by 200 foot area of briars and thorn and everything else when you've just wiped out 35 acres of land.
Well,
And I understand.
It provides
was
a
not my-
habitat
It was
for
my,
animals.
I understand that it was not, I am not supposed to go and just take it upon myself to clear cut it. To take the briars and thorns
So
out.
the town over the years have tried to figure out ways to have less disruption in a project. And so one of the things that they came up with was a flexible open space plan. So the developer first goes in to a site and they show that they can build a conventional subdivision with 25 houses. And then if they prove that satisfactorily to the town, then they can come back to the town and say, well, we can build 25 houses on the site with half the acreage, so the houses become more condensed. Unlike in the subdivision where yours was built, where they had to stay to a half acre, now these are on a quarter acre, but the other half acre, or another other quarter acre, gets accumulated and made into some sort of strip.
Sure.
And some people are happy to have an additional buffer. You know, you
Sure.
can't build a house within 30 feet of the rear property line.
Yep.
And if another 25 feet or whatever's added, it gives people an additional buffer. to Penny's point, we're supposed to be trying to keep that woods in somewhat of a natural state. And our purview as a conservation commission, we're given that land and we'll say, well, we're supposed to protect that. And as Amy said, this happens fairly frequently. We have some issues in other parts of town that are against the town forest. A couple of places, people made mistakes about where the property line was. And what we try to do is work with folks and explain that, you know, we're trying to keep this fairly natural. There is some wildlife that's still in there. It creates a corridor that, say, deer or whatever could move through a little bit. I know they probably move right into your yard and eat the shrubs, but
They do, which is fine.
yeah.
I'm a conservationist. I've been part of Ducks Unlimited and National Audubon Society. I got birds out, we
Okay.
do some duck walks. I'm
Yep,
I'm
I
not
get it.
against, I'm
All
not
right.
against conservation, and I'm not trying to landscape the place.
Yep.
I'm literally just trying to put some trees in that area where it's been stripped.
So what would be good for us, obviously, in the future, and for your neighbors, is the commission has jurisdiction. And if you come in and say to us, hey, listen, I'm living here, I think this is a mess, I could make this, improve on this.
Right.
Can we work together on that? We want to clean out around our stone wall and knock back the poison ivy and that sort of thing. And, you know, there's bittersweet or some other stuff that's choking everything off. Can we clean that up?
Right.
Chances are pretty good we're gonna be saying, sure, we want some,
My wife did come down and do that. She wasn't
Okay.
directed here. She was told no.
well, there's a lot of people in here, so, all right. And then the other
Just let me know
part,
that she
so the
did
other
that.
part is, you know, as I explained to you, that we've also acquired quite a bit more property that's alongside there. And this, when I walked it, I think there might be a path that goes from over there somewhere towards the school or something like that.
Yeah, actually, we oftentimes maintain a little path down
And
there.
that's-
I asked Mr. Curtis,
Yep.
the old, deceased Mr. Curtis,
Yeah.
what he thought about that. He loved the idea that the kids walk to school every day.
And so my point is that in time, we're hopeful to develop something in there that could be good with the school for nature or something like that. And we probably won't direct them into your backyard. It'll be more in the woods behind there. So the commission wants to work with the neighbors, and they want to do the things that we're supposed to do, and at the same time, make sure that we follow our responsibilities.
Right.
What I would suggest is maybe you can make a simple sketch or something of that area.
Okay.
Take a look at some plant material that's
Yeah.
natural or maybe more beneficial. There's certain plants and stuff that give feed to birds and stuff like that. If you're in Ducks Unlimited or grouse or whatever, you know, take a look at that
Yep.
and then get some kind of sketch and say, here's how we'd like to revegetate this.
Okay, so would that include some form of arborvitae, so we can have that kind of a
No.
buffer?
I
Is
think,
there any reason why that wouldn't be?
I think if you want arborvitae, you should plant them on your property. So what we're looking for is native vegetation, so something that's gonna fill in so that
white
in 5
pines,
years.
white pines could work on the other side.
What could?
White pine,
Yep,
white pine trees.
something that's
And
gonna
they grow
match.
big and fast.
Blueberry bushes, like in native stuff, yeah.
Do they grow large enough to cover that land, that
Yeah.
area?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
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 Yeah. Look
White
towards
pine,
trees,
they take
like I say, a
off.
white pine or
Yeah, that's what I want. I'm not stuck on arborvitae, it's the only thing I know.
arborvitae's are gonna look more like a
It's gonna be there,
shrub.
and it's gonna
But
be-
if you want privacy, that those types of plantings would be on your own property, not on the public property. So what you disturbed is gonna be replaced with in kind with what you cut down. You see
Poison
what I'm
ivy?
saying?
No, not the poison.
Well, I mean, not the poison ivy, but,
Briars.
If you want privacy
yeah, that's
and
gonna come back,
vast
that will come
on your
back
property, put rocket junipers. You'll have plenty of privacy.
on your property, right?
But I think you can, I do believe there's some trees and plants
Yeah.
that you could plant on that property
That will grow.
that will give you what you're looking for.
Is that something that if I come to with a proposal, you guys would fund, potentially?
No.
No, you
We
won't.
don't fund it, anything.
We could
don't have any money.
fine you and get you to pay for it,
Okay.
but that's not what we're trying
And
to.
how much would the fine be
I don't know.
for doing something like this?
I don't know. And we're not interested in that. What we,
Well, I mean, I just was wondering.
okay, I don't know. We could
Yeah,
look-
so, well, technically, it's a trespassing violation, and so it would end up in court. That's the legal counsel answer to what these types of violations are.
We don't want to do that.
I think really you could just come up with some decent planting for that area to revegetate the area that you cleared. And I think you could have, both of us could be happy with that. I think if you came up with some like pine trees or something that aren't dropping the needles all the time, you're gonna get a good break. And maybe some shrubs or plants that would be good for the environment and would be cool with that.
Lisa, you had mentioned a type of plant that could help there. What was the name of that?
Blueberry bush, juniper.
If you, I mean, I've done it at other properties, and it grows really fast. If you put like right on your property line, just a row of rocket junipers.
Rocket?
Yep, rocket junipers. They grow really fast. They're
How high do they
dense.
grow?
They can be 30 feet high depending on which ones you get. But they're dense and full on the bottom as well as the plant goes up.
But these are plants that would go on his
His
property.
Right, this is on his
But
property,
he's
yeah.
looking to vegetate the area that, or we're looking for him to
We're looking
revegetate the area that he disturbed.
Oh, but I thought he was
Well, I
also,
was asking for both.
yeah.
Okay.
Come up with an idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't looking to, like I say, take over the land in some kind of eminent domain. It just seemed to me not to be that big of an issue to plant some trees, is really what it got down to.
And again, the commission is happy to work with folks that do that. And I
Yeah.
realize that your wife came in and got maybe some misinformation or whatever. We're not here to croak anybody.
Yeah.
We just want to get this back in sort of a natural setting, but at the same time, you can achieve some of the things that you're trying to.
Yeah, I understand. And I would say that it's probably, I'll probably say too much, because usually I do. But I think that for that area you're talking about, from the school to Townsend, the whole area, the 15 acres that you got, I think it's fantastic, a great idea. I just think that maybe there should be some more thought about the area behind, in between, a residence, and it's the same for my other neighbors as well. The residents in that area there, where they've clear-cut everything, and now we're looking at foundations of big houses. Again, it's not my land. I'm okay with them wanting to sell the land and put some houses there. Totally fine with me. It's not my property. But the commission ought to think about, potentially, instead of saying there's a 20 feet by about 100 feet, or 200 feet, less than a football field, there's an area there that was originally put there as kind of protecting and a buffer for us, that we think about maybe you could work with those, the 3 or 4 neighbors that are affected by this to be able to plant something that is actually going to be
We
a
would be
buffer.
more than happy if you guys got together as a whole
Okay,
and came back and said, listen, we need more screening between our property and there.
because that picture right there is literally, I didn't tear down one darn tree. I didn't, nothing came out of it that was
Nobody's
higher than
arguing,
waste.
nobody's
Nobody's
arguing
arguing.
with you about it. What I'm
Just so you
saying,
know, but she said I may have clear cut some trees.
but if you
Amy,
and your neighbors want to enhance that buffer piece, put something together, come to the commission, say, here's what we'd like to do out here, and we'll work with you.
great.
We
And Amy,
don't,
you probably said that because it's probably hard for you to believe that there's that much of space for what was cleared in that area, because the only 2 trees that were left were the trees in that section, everything else is clear cut. There was no trees up until that
I
area.
walked most of this land before it was developed.
Yeah,
So I'm pretty aware of what was out there. I mean, not every tree, but I did walk it pretty thoroughly, and there were areas that were more open, and then there were areas that are really dense, and it depends on whether a lot of it's wet, like say back over where the old ovens were,
yeah,
that was pretty open.
yeah.
You could look right through that area.
Yep.
So we know what's out there. It's the town's land.
Yep.
We're happy to work with folks around it,
Beautiful.
but we need to do it together,
Appreciate it.
all right?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay.
So what's the next step?
Garden stores can give you a list too.
Right, if you go to a landscaper,
Right.
any landscaper will help you
They can
with
tell you
privacy.
what would be indigenous to
bushes.
the area, and all you have to do is just let them know whether it's full sun, partial sun, or completely shaded. They can give you a list.
So what's the next step for, is there a form I need to fill out or some kind of proposal request? That I need to get,
Back to us with.
I would say come back with a plan.
With a plan, yeah.
But, and if
Let
you
me
think
get
your
a list of
neighbors are
plans.
interested in doing it, why you guys don't
Drawing.
get your stuff together and just do it all together?
But the plan has to be done first.
Right, but
I got that, Mr. Hardy. Thank you.
I mean, Frank, I agree with, we'll work with them, but we're not looking for them to put together a managed forest piece there, though.
Right.
That is contrary to the protection of the open space.
Right. So, all right.
It's
Can we give them any guideline? Is there anything that we can?
If you want privacy
planted
stuff, get your property surveyed, and then go to a landscaper and plant
on your own
privacy
property,
stuff, yeah.
like everybody does, yeah.
But if they want to enhance that, if they've got a genuine interest in enhancing
Enhancing our-
that strip,
That's fine.
Well, that step would have occurred at the planning board level when they did the subdivision.
but now
You know
we're,
what I mean?
the commission now has the jurisdiction
Yeah.
over this strip of land.
Right,
And Mr. Gates is saying that there's not enough buffer, you know, when they've cleared all this out, it's exposed them to a lot
Yeah.
more of the subdivision. I personally don't have a problem with them coming in and say, we'd like to add some trees that will, in time,
I can understand that.
fill out in that area, but we want to know what they are.
Yeah, totally, that's all I'm looking for.
Well, and, I
That'll
mean, I
take
can
a long
understand
time.
it, but it's still contrary to the open space thing, I mean.
That's
you
what I
know
was trying to
mean?
get at, it's open, it's
a
contrary
tough-
to
tough
to a
question.
massive open space, but we're talking about a 20-foot, literally 20-foot by 200-foot strip of land that it's just,
And that's why nobody wanted to protect it when the developers were trying to come up with something, because, this is a conversation I had with Wyland's Trust. These
Right.
are difficult because of
Have a lot
the
of
proximity to other people and their thoughts about it. You know, some people use it as a place to dump all their clippings and brush.
yeah.
Other people cut, you know, wood on it. We'll get calls because someone's got a dead tree and they're afraid their kids are gonna get hurt. I mean, we're gonna deal with those kind of things as it goes along.
Yep.
And I think if they wanna come back to us and say, here's what we'd like to do out here, and it's not gonna, you know, everybody's got a different idea what a forest should look like. You know, you go to Europe and there's these perfectly manicured forests without a thing on the ground.
Right.
That's not the feeling that should happen in this area. It's natural, and to Betty's point,
I understand
I
completely.
mean, do we know that
It's like a
the
small area.
houses are not fully built out there? Do we know that the planning board plan doesn't include some kind of vegetation buffer that's just not installed yet?
I
mean,
don't believe there's any planting to be built on that strip that we
But
got.
on
The
the
land, the
land
house.
that is and the Ann Vinyl subdivision, though?
I don't know.
There could be. I mean, I'm not sure.
I've never seen them
No, I don't think
require
there is.
any plant. All they do is put up the post to say, don't.
Yeah, I know that there's a don't disturb, but I mean, I think as a commission and a board, you can offer thoughtful comments to the next open space development that leaves a similar
Mm-hmm.
scrappy strip, that there should be a buffer. You know what I mean? I don't know. In this
Well,
one,
the
there's
whole
not.
idea is that we did create a buffer, or we've tried to create a greater buffer than was there before. Like I said, if this was a conventional subdivision, then
Built right up.
they would have been built right up to the stone wall. And
Yep, you're right.
and they're not. It's created this strip, and we gladly took on the care and custody of that strip.
If it was built right up to the wall, I talked to Mr. Gillespie, he would have put up trees, you know, would have done that. I
Whether we
mean,
wouldn't, but that's irrelevant.
it would have been different.
Well, go talk to him and see if he'll put them up 30 feet away.
On the other side of the.
Yeah,
of the-
on the land that he's developing.
On the land that
Right.
he's developing.
I will.
I'm not sure that's not part of it.
Yeah, I don't,
I will
whatever.
absolutely-
I don't know.
I will absolutely ask him that.
All right, but what we want to see is this area
Restored.
somewhat
It's
restored.
bushes and plants,
Restored, yeah.
natural.
Okay?
Yeah, and I appreciate you
All right, and I think,
allowing some
and if you
trees.
can get with your neighbors and come up with,
If they want to do
So if
something.
we can get a restoration
Well, that's a separate
plan in
issue,
like
though.
2
We-
weeks.
Yeah,
Right.
we're gonna get this all tied together, and it's gonna be
Okay,
a
so-
goat
Next
roping.
week, and I got a lot of stuff going.
Want to give them a time frame? 2
Month.
weeks is
A
not
month.
good. Month,
Month.
all right?
Yep.
Good.
okay.
All right, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dolan Well pump test?
Okay, so that actually, Frank, there could be a letter in your folder, but I'll just explain it really
Yeah, Jen
quick.
didn't give me that.
If you
Yeah.
want
It's her fault.
my letter.
The consultant for the town, Weston and Sampson, is doing a pump test for the new well field called Dolan Well Fields. And so they're trying to determine whether the wells are gonna produce enough water to further develop for, as a drinking water source. The question was whether or not, whether or not they needed to permit the activity, the temporary activity, just to determine pump rates.
What,
So
for
my
5 days they
feeling
want to
is-
pump out there?
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
gonna end up, the water is gonna end up hitting a stream.
Yeah.
It's a common geotechnical analysis, or hydrogeo analysis of a water well. But anyways, my feeling is that it's exempt, but it's going to be leading into a future bigger project. I don't know, we could take it as an
Possibly,
RDA
yeah.
or an NOI
Yeah.
also, although I think that there is some urgency, so I'm leaning towards an exemption in the act.
They just want to see if it's going to be a feasible well.
Right, if it's gonna produce
Yeah,
enough water.
if it's gonna
How much, do
produce-
you know how much clearing or what they have to do to get the drills in there? Is there much work?
They've already cleared the area.
Wouldn't that have been what we should have been asked about?
Well, it's not all buffer, you know.
Okay. I'm with you on thinking
Did
that
they
that's...
come in from Country Way? Because I haven't noticed a clearing going in that way.
I'm not entirely sure. I think so, actually.
Well, it's
That
just
sounds about
above,
right.
it would be
Yeah.
north of Hollitt Street where they go in. I'm not seeing it.
I don't know where they're going, I know it's along the tracks there somewhere, but I don't know where the
Yeah.
access point is.
I think there may have been previous existing, like, paths.
Yeah, many years ago.
So that's one. I don't even think you need a vote on that. We have subcommittee project updates, miscellaneous old business, your orders to vote on.
Can I do the orders quickly,
Can
Frank?
we do the master plan
Sure,
discussion?
can.
So,
Yeah.
we're requested by Brad Washburn to appoint a member of the commission to serve on the master plan committee
For 1 year, yeah.
for a year while they do work on that. And so I don't know, I talked to Penny a little bit about it. Penny's done it before. I'm certainly comfortable with Penny doing it again, but I don't know if anybody else has an interest, or time to serve on that.
I am more than happy to do it, unless somebody else really wants to do it. I have the time.
I'd rather go to the dentist.
I nominate Penny. Do I have a second?
A second.
Doug, you look reluctant.
Do you want to do it, Doug?
Not me, not it.
But Penny's nominated and elected.
Okay.
So I have a,
Lisa, did you object to that? Oh, okay, just checking.
so I'm sorry, what are we out after that?
Okay, now I'm gonna do the orders of condition. I make a motion, we accept the orders of condition, 1 Field Ave, which is septic and piers as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I make a motion, we accept the orders of condition for 83 Gilson Road, that's bank stabilization, I can't even talk, and invasive species control as written.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I make a motion, we accept the orders of condition for 124 Man Hill Road, a new deck with pool, that's the pool up in the air, everyone, as written.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
I make a motion, we accept the orders of condition as written for 47 Gannett Road, that's the after-the-fact
Yeah,
pool
right.
and patio.
Second. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we have a request for a minor revision to a septic system plan for 274 Central Ave. So this one was permitted several years ago, and they're finally getting a contractor on board. Merrill Associates just tweaked the plan, under review in the Board of Health, but rather than coming back for, the order's still valid, so rather than coming back, said we could take it as a minor revision.
Do we know what the minor revision is?
It's just a difference in the leaching field.
Okay.
Request for extension, 46 Townway extension, renourish and replenish sand under the house. So that's, I think, the last of the Townway extensions, maybe, of the,
3-year extension?
yes.
I make a motion, we extend 46 Town Way, the renourishment and replenished, for 3 years.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then 147A Border Street, which is Charlie Ames' house, new house on Border Street.
Yeah.
That he's just about done with the work, but it expired last month, so I told him he should extend that for another year, which
When
will...
it expires, you can
Yeah.
come in after the fact, okay.
Well, it was just a few weeks,
Yeah, no.
so I think we can have a little bit of
Yeah.
leeway.
Yeah.
So we're gonna...
Make a motion, we extend 147A Border Street for 1 year.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, C of C's, 23 Walnut Hill Road, 175 Turner, and 117 Lawson.
Are they all good?
And 21 Circuit.
Are you good with all of those?
Yes.
Okay. We don't have to vote on them.
No, we
No.
don't.
And then just a little more agents report.
Yeah?
So, obviously, we've been busy. Let's see, some of the enforcement items that we have on Go Green. So we did send the letter out, and I've spoken with Tim Lopes, and he is inviting us to do a site walk so we can check out encroachment and potential buffer zone violations out there. We had tentatively set maybe sometime this week. Didn't know if anybody was interested in site visits and that site in particular. Tomorrow, we want to do it on a dry day. He said, don't come out when it's wet. It's
No, you don't want to.
super muddy.
The other thing you're gonna see when you're out there is
The
the
dog
start of the dog park.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was a muddy mess
Yeah.
last week.
Won't it be muddy from all the rain we just had?
Oh, yeah. Well, so tomorrow's not going to work out. Wednesday's a strong possibility. We could actually do that one.
Could you email us?
Yeah, with another one. So actually, Charlie Ames was in last week. I met with him for a pretty long time to go over 3 separate NOIs he has out on the Glades. I don't know when the last time people have been out on that property, but
Been a
that's
couple of years.
also
Oh, geez,
an
yeah,
interesting site
yeah.
walk to go out and take a look at the seawalls out there.
Yeah.
So I think he's got 2 he wants to repair, and then he wants to re-nourish Waddles Beach before it breaks through to Coho. So
Okay.
we had a successful Peel site visit meeting with DEP and the Voyagian team. So we'll see how that pans out, but CZM was there, and so were several neighbors. Actually was on the phone today with Fred, and because he's trying to get 23 Oceanside going, and talked about the infiltrators going in. But anyways, we did mention that 33, and I think he's looking to mediate still and would like to maybe come in with a different proposal. But I'm not sure, because we haven't seen anything.
Can I ask a question? Because I did not make that site visit, but I walked it after supposedly all of this was done. There's still more to be done, isn't there?
Yeah, well, the empty lot?
Yeah, and along the side of it, because there's still a lot of stuff there. Or unless,
23 Oceanside you're talking about?
no, I'm sorry, no.
33 is the appeal
Okay,
so we denied the project
okay, yes,
with the fill and the walls.
yes. Okay.
Okay, yeah, and so CZM was pretty strong out of the gate, I felt. So,
I thought it was a really good, yeah.
yeah.
Supporting our denial, I mean.
Yes.
It
Yes.
seemed that way.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a tough case with no performance standards for land subject to coastal storm flowage, but
And yes,
hopefully this will be a
doing it differently.
positive one for the town.
Well, everybody seemed, the points were all clearly made.
They
Oh,
were
yeah.
very clearly made, yeah,
Right,
yeah. It was a good meeting, I thought.
that's it, so,
Okay, anybody else? I'm meeting with Paul Scott tomorrow to get updates, get our bid package out finally
Yes.
for our
the
trails and
parking.
parking. And the trails group with the mapping is just about done. They were trying to pull together all the loose ends with Ivis so that our maps and whatnot will be ready for, well, we're kind of an executive decision, but we're going to make the trail maps public for Hubble, Ellis, and Driftway Park. And we're gonna not put the maps out yet for Higgins McAllister or Crosby or Bates Lane until we have parking available, because people will look at that and assume that there's parking and places to go, and
There isn't.
it won't be there. So we do have trails marked in several places, but, and still the Bates Lane property is all marked and open, but right now, parking's pretty much limited to Mount Hope and a little bit on Clap Road, so.
So that's
Good.
good.
Yeah,
Everything.
Finally.
It just takes time. Yes, I'm very excited. Very excited.
okay, anybody else?
I'm making-
How's things on Hummerock? It must be getting busier.
This weekend it was busier, wasn't
Yeah.
it? But it's been very slow this year, very slow.
Well, it's
The
all
weather,
rain.
the weather. The boats are just now going.
Until
in,
school
really.
gets out, it's just a trickle of people, and then it's,
Yeah.
Memorial Day weekend
all
is
hell breaks
when
loose.
the invasion
Well,
starts.
that's this weekend.
Yes, it is.
yeah.
Yeah. Graduations and,
It'll be a busy weekend, but until school gets out, yeah,
Yeah.
then it'll be
Okay,
quiet
Well,
again.
and let's hope the weather.
should we take a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Uh,
We didn't make 8 o'clock, Paul, but we almost did.
I didn't say anything.
Very well.
How do we vote? on
Ken.
the,
I bring
Ken.
smaller
I
bottles.
like this guy. If you're in a meeting of his,
That will come up again, and although we already discussed it